How was your life? What's that, like 2 years ago? 1 year ago?
Yeah, something like that. I think that, whenever we first started talking, I was at a situation where I thought I was selling our websites for a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like, cause I had been gradually selling them for more and more and more every time we've been, we've been playing the game. And I'd already been at a point where I wasn't working on anything I didn't want to work on. Uh, but what I realized is that threshold, what I don't want to work on is actually way higher than I thought it was. So I can go back now and look at everything I was doing 2 years plus ago and be like, oh, I actually didn't want to work on that thing. Like it just seemed like I did because it wasn't overtly terrible, but it also wasn't necessarily super fulfilling to work on either. It was just some pipeline stuff. And, we were able to, over the course of 6 to 8 months that we worked together, you were kind of battling some of these preconceived notions I had about what the ceiling was or what the cap was for what people were able to buy for some of this stuff. Because keep in mind, like when I left my last agency to start Old Speak 7 years ago, that was entirely a creative freedom endeavor. You know what I mean? Like I was tired of being put in situations where I didn't have control over the outcome of the thing that I could control. I wasn't like, oh, the clients are terrible or whatever. It was more like there was just a lot of tumultuousness that I wanted to avoid. And I thought, I'll just start a business and I'll be able to avoid all of that stuff because it'll be a creative led business. And meanwhile, reality hits you in the face like a ton of bricks. It's like you have to know how to do marketing, you have to know how to do sales, you have to know buyer psychology, you have to know how to network with people. There's a whole slew of things. You have to know how to do operational stuff that honestly I still kind of struggle with. And it's like every creative run business is like this, where they think that their creativity is going to be the thing that sets them apart from everybody else. But that stuff is all a commodity. We have AI that can do that now. You know what I mean? It's like being able to package all of this stuff up and have the right prongs, the right external little textures to where they'll stick to some other business, whatever they need. And it's not a creative person necessarily buying at these other businesses. Creative person. I think everybody's creative, but you know what I mean? It's not a designer that's necessarily buying in all these other places. It might be like a CFO or a CEO or a VP of marketing or something like that. And they all want different things from you beyond your creativity. Your creativity is just kind of baseline expected,
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so at the time I kind of thought we were riding real hard on the quality of our output, and I didn't really know, because I didn't have a business perspective, just how much some of these people were paying for some of these things. I thought that whenever we were charging $20,000 for a website, that I'm over here thinking, who's paying that kind of money for a website? You know what I mean? And just 2 years later, I feel the exact same way about what we're charging, which is maybe triple that, you know, like, I don't see, I don't feel like I see the ceiling. The ceiling feels like some kind of blurry thing to me. I'm sure it's there, but I don't see it. And it's one of those things where, we're not going to be able to make our product better to reach there. I feel like our product is already on that level. It's all mindset stuff. It's all the peripheral stuff that we have to dig in, and from a marketing or a sales perspective, just growing this network, figuring out what the value actually is of the thing that we're doing. And I feel like that's what you helped us with the most, is being able to see the value through the lens of these high profile buyers, these high ticket buyers, because I didn't really have a whole lot of that. When I came in, I was like, well, our product is really good, and so that should sort of speak for itself. And I think that a lot of people who come from a design school background kind of have that preconceived notion of the work speaks for itself. You just put your work on a white background or a gray background and just write a couple little words about it, and the right people will find you. And then it's just not true at all.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's actually what you helped us uncover was that it's the way that these other companies see the work that you do isn't from a creative or visual lens. Like they appreciate that, but they assume that that's happening just because they're hiring somebody in the first place. The thing that actually matters to them is it going to get done on time? Is it going to accomplish these high level objectives that the company has? And what are those high level objectives? Like those details have done more for us being able to raise our prices for doing, honestly, the same amount of work. Those principles have done more for that goal, I guess, than pretty much any other thing that we've been able to do. You know, we haven't really changed our product a whole lot. It's just been how we've just been changing how we talk about it and who we talk about it to.
So what was the biggest outcome for you on a commercial level and on a personal level? Like, what was the biggest success?
Yeah. Well, I think from a commercial perspective, you know, being able to hit our break-even point before Q3 starts or before Q3 is over, I mean, has been a big deal. You know what I mean? Because now we have a whole quarter full of stuff that pipeline we've already filled up that we can reinvest into all kinds of different things in our company. We could grow if we wanted to. We could, you know, engage in some other marketing activities that have like a higher cost of entry than free. You know what I mean? Because typically we've just been doing all the free stuff. You know, we could go to events. So I think that that's a pretty big deal. I also think that being able to confidently speak about price among high level buyers, like in the same room as them, and not feel like a fraud while I'm doing it. It's kind of a big deal because if you'll recall, whenever we first started connecting, I had a lot of like extra baggage, if you will, from growing up in a scarce resource kind of environment. You know what I mean? And I had that scarcity mindset that I brought with me. And so when I'm in here with people who have an abundance of resources and they're managing these resources and trying to, you know, procure the best thing that they could from me, sometimes I was like worried to be able to smell it on me. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this guy's cool. He don't know anything or whatever.
You actually said that. I remember. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't feel like I really have that at all anymore. You know what I mean? And so that's a big deal, like psychologically. It's also been really cool to be able to like just say a price and just sit back, you know, and just let the space around you happen. Like you don't have to say anything. Just let them say the thing first, you know, and then watch them argue amongst each other about why it's a reasonable price to spend. And you're just like, nice. Yeah, keep doing that. I don't have to do any of the selling anymore. I like you're selling it at this point in time, which is another technique that, you know, I think that you helped us kind of hone in on. Like a lot of these things you can already find enough influencers on LinkedIn or wherever that are telling you these high level things, and you already have all of these dots in your head, but you're helping us like connect these dots, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like I already knew that was a thing that you could do, but I didn't know how. Like somebody told me you could do it. I didn't know how. You told us how, you know? And so then you go out and do it and you realize, oh, it's actually pretty easy. It's actually pretty easy to do if you're competent and have a good product, you know, which we already did. So I don't know how much you would have been able to do for us if we didn't have a good product already. Who knows?
Who knows? I have other clients, but you have a superior product actually. And one of the questions, like one of the things I want to ask is like, what was the highest budget you got within the time we worked together?
I feel like that the answer to that question isn't as interesting as some of the lower scope of works that we were able to get higher budgets for. So like I've been able to do, for example, okay, so I've only ever traded deliverables for money.
Yes.
We had a situation where I traded 4 meetings for $4,000. So I'm on your level now, where I'm charging $1,000 for a meeting sometimes, you know, like, and I was able to do that, and that was pretty cool. Um, and they all found it valuable. You know what I mean? Like uh, they based a whole go-to-market strategy around some of the fundamental ideas that I had laid out, at least from a marketing perspective, which I thought was pretty fascinating. So that's only $4,000, but it only took me 3.5, 4 hours to make. Um, we've had projects, a couple of projects be in like the 70s, the mid 70s range, for some work that we did on like web stuff. But it also included design. And before we hadn't really been doing design, we'd only been doing the development because we've been working with agencies, but we sort of zoomed out and started working direct with clients sometimes. And so we had budgets that were up in the 70s, but I think that because we were adding other deliverables to it, I think the overall, I don't know, like cost per hour of time or whatever, maybe went down on a project like that, which is why I was saying it was probably a little less interesting. But those are kind of strategic moves for us to be able to build a portfolio of saying we can do those things. We don't have to rely on these other agencies to get that kind of work. Even though if any of them end up watching this and it makes the cut, definitely still like working with other agencies if they're good. And then I think that some stuff that we used to think would be like, oh, we'll just get this done in a couple of weeks, no big deal. And we charge a couple of weeks worth of time for it. Some of those projects are getting tripled. And I think that stuff is a little bit more interesting than maybe, like that's closer to the meetings thing I was telling you about earlier. But yeah, I'm still waiting for that 6-figure, super big web project or whatever. I'm working on those projects, but I'm working on them through other people who are like taking that top level out of it. But I know they exist.
You do, and you will get there. No worries. One more question. How's your life different on a personal level now? What could I trigger in you?
Yeah.
Led to a change, because you have changed.
Right. I mean, I feel like a lot of it, honestly, was that I was already kind of priding myself for such a change. Like I had other stuff going on. Like I had made sure that I was exercising an hour a day every day, either strength or some kind of endurance thing. And that kind of set the groundwork for me to be able to make a whole bunch of other changes, kind of like a strike while the iron's hot kind of thing. Like if I'm already doing something hard, I might as well stack a bunch of hard stuff on top of it, which you totally helped us do. I feel like just a general, like higher level of confidence among people who aren't necessarily like me. Like I was saying earlier, being able to go into a room full of people who don't have a design background and still be able to speak confidently to them as though we're peers in the world. And I don't have to like look up to them. They're not on some kind of pedestal to me. Like, that's a really big deal actually, because if you can see yourself on the same level as people who are more successful than you, then you can become that. If you can't see yourself on that level, you'll never, ever get there. You'll always be down here, you know? And I don't even know if you could quantify how valuable that is. Like, you know, for a lot of people, like that could be the very thing that makes them quit what they're doing, is that they can't overcome that specific obstacle. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like I have that obstacle anymore. And I totally had it. Like I for sure had that obstacle so bad, and I don't have it at all anymore. Like it's almost kind of funny. I'll go back and look at old pictures of me, and I'll be able to see myself like 30 pounds lighter, looking like a stick. You know what I mean? With my super long hair on that, the work speaks for itself, buddy. Like on that level, you know what I mean? I could just get back into that mind, and it was just like, I don't know, it's kind of cringy. It's like, you could really tap back into that insecurity. It's kind of like, I don't know, going back and listening to some music that you used to listen to when you're going through a certain time period or whatever. Like whenever you get into some sort of experience, be it visual or like, I don't know, sonic or whatever, where it kind of just transforms you back into a certain time period. That time period 2-3 years ago for me even, it just feels like confidence the confidence that I feel right now, I feel like it's almost overwhelmed. Like it's probably a problem. There are probably people around me who are like, dude, you got to relax.
No worries, no worries. You're far from being whatever you would call that, but you're good. No worries. Thanks, Alan. That was amazing to hear. Thanks for that.